Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Saints Row the 4th. Will you stop shooting at me, you assholes? I'm trying to do an introduction here. Let's just get the heck out of Dodge here. Saints Row, of course, the open world. I don't care about exiting the Flashpoint area just yet. We're building a moment here, game. Just work with me. The latest in the open world franchise by Volition Entertainment, now published by Deep Silver after, of course, the bankruptcy of THQ. My history with the Saints Row franchise is fairly recent, actually. I didn't play Saints Row 1, I didn't play Saints Row 2nd. I did play Saints Row the 3rd. I probably played about 6 or 7 hours of that in co-op. And Saints Row 4, it's so tempted to say the 4th, but is the first one that I've really spent any significant amount of single-player time with. So, I'm again trying to set the stage here for what I'm going to say about this game, but to spoil it right off the top, this is a fantastically entertaining open-world game, and I'm a little bit kind of tired of open-world games at this point. You know, I understand they're well-made, but at this point, I kind of feel like all that can be done, or, you know, all that is normally done has been done, right? You can change your costume, you can buy new weapons, etc., etc., you can take over stores, whatever. That doesn't interest me all that much, even in Sleeping Dogs, which I thought was great. I didn't find that stuff all that engaging, but I like the missions, I like, you know, tooling around the city just a little bit, and Saints Row 4 might be the best open-world game that I've ever played for getting around the city, up there with, like, you know, Spider-Man 2 for the last generation of consoles. And the reason for that is, holy shit, we now have Superpowers. So, you know, continuing in the kind of absurd bend of Saints Row the 3rd, we are now playing as the President of the United States. Obviously, character creation still absolutely goddamn crazy. I should mention, by the way, I am playing the PC version here. So I'm playing the President of the United States. I'm dressed in like a Leave It to Beaver style outfit here with the sweater vest and the bow tie and the sweet dad glasses, leopard print face. You can't really see it, but my body is also a glorious luminescent Simpsons-esque shade of yellow. And yeah, basically there's been an alien invasion on Earth, so, you know, this is Grand Theft Auto, this is not. There's been an alien invasion on Earth, and we have been kidnapped as the President of the United States. Of course, we are a man of some significance, or a woman of some significance, if you'd prefer to play as that. So we've been captured, and now we kind of find ourselves in the Matrix, to be, you know, a little bit reductive. We are in an alien simulation of Steelport, and essentially this opens up all sorts of kind of awesome gameplay mechanics for us. So now, you know, we don't simply have absurdity in the form of, like, you can drive a truck that's got, like, a soda can. You can hit people with a dildo. Like, you know, you don't get me wrong, as much as I like that. Now, you know, we have super speed, and we can, like, run through cars. We have super jumping, and we can jump really high in the air. We also, if you'll allow me here, have the ability to freeze enemies with superpowers like so. That was actually fire. I apologize for that. Let's try this again. I'll wait for my super meter to go up there on the bottom right side. I don't really want to fight this flashpoint. It's kind of irrelevant, I feel, right now. I want to get into a mission at some point, but again, just setting the stage. We also have a freezing power, as mentioned. We can breakdance our way to recover from a disaster. And let's try to hit this car. Beautiful. You know, we can freeze that car and then shoot it a couple of times. And if you freeze a person and then shoot them, they will shatter, which is, of course, as satisfying as it sounds, and never stops being satisfying the more you play. We also have some telekinesis going on here, and that's about as far as I've found so far in the game. One second, let me get my menu weapon up here, and I'll get telekinesis. So I can also, you know, pick people up, like this guy right here. Sorry, you unlucky soul. And then I can, you know, jump into the sky and throw him into the sun itself. So that's me setting the stage for the 20th time about what we can do in Saints Row the 4th. Let's talk about how I've enjoyed the game so far, and then we'll get into a mission. This is basically, in my mind, Crackdown plus Saints Row the 3rd. And I think that's a very, very positive thing. Even down to the Crackdown elements are pervasive here. Even down to the fact that you can collect these orbs, and these orbs effectively feed into your superpowers. So these are clusters, but, you know, I'll call them orbs because why not? Functionally, I guess, basically the same thing. We can use our orbs to then upgrade our abilities. So right now I only have about half of them unlocked. This is after about 2.5 hours of play so far in Saints Row 4. I don't think I said Saints Row the 3rd earlier. My apologies. So if we wanted to, we could upgrade to wall running. That seems kind of awesome. Or we could increase our speed while super sprinting. We could run on water eventually. That's kind of cool. And we could reach maximum faster. What about super jump? We can get an air dash. We can restore health when we use our ninja reflexes, which is like that breakdancing thing that we did earlier. We can also upgrade our blast, which is basically like our ice elements. One second here. Let me go to upgrades, not blast area or blast recharge. In fact, it's probably a good idea for me to get my recharge actually lowered here. So why don't we get our blast recharge to lower, because I use my superpowers in combat a lot. Basically what I'm getting at, if you like Crackdown and you like Saints Row the 3rd, you are going to love Saints Row the 4th. It's a lot of fun, and you don't use cars anymore. I have very rarely used cars to get around. Instead, it's substantially more fun to just kind of run around and jump everywhere. So even though I don't necessarily get into the like, oh, hey, take over this store, hey, buy guns and new costumes and stuff like that element like a lot of people do, still, this is still a whole lot of fun just to move around the city. It's very satisfying. Again, it's kind of exhilaration just in the basic mode of transportation that I have not felt since Spider-Man 2 or maybe even Crackdown, as mentioned. I really like the original Crackdown on Xbox 360. It came out back in 2007. All right, so without further ado, let's load into a mission here. We'll go back a little bit. Why not leave it to the Saints here, which is only about 6% of the way through the game. I want to avoid spoilers. It's inevitable we're going to spoil some of the story, and it's actually, you might be thinking like that's not such a big deal. It's Saints Row, it's all about absurdity, right? Yes, but those absurd moments are so good that I don't want to spoil them. There is a lot of genuine hilarity in this game, at least I have found. I guess we want to go to our quest menu here. Oh, that's not what I meant. That's our map. Learn the rules. Learn to damage the alien presence. Sure, this one seems fairly easy. And we'll do a couple of missions here.
It looks like these hotspots are protected by shield generators. Getting near them will be tricky, but you'll have to shut down each one before you can take out the main hub, which of course is protected by even more sin. So, good luck with that.
So we're still very much entrenched in the tutorialized elements of the game right now. I was just hoping that I still had my superpowers. I don't think I have my blast yet, though, which is unfortunate because I probably should have picked a mission where we can use that for combat. But anyway, well, this will just be an early mission to show off how things work.
Of course not.
Alright, one thing I should point out is I've actually used the, like, voice pitch modulator to pitch my character's voice, like, 40% lower than normal. And this has made it so that it's almost impossible to hear what he says, which is kind of great. I really like that. Oh, man, are there no subtitles? Maybe it's in gameplay. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I'm gonna put on subtitles, but I kind of like it without subtitles because people talk to this guy and he's like, obviously he looks absolutely insane, and then he'll be like, and they're like, yeah, boss, but are you sure we should do it? And it's kind of like he is just this like basically mute or Scooby-Doo style character. Anyway, just an added level of emergent gameplay, I suppose. So let's run our way over here, and what we're going to be doing here is just learning one of the very basic elements in the game, and that is how to destroy alien hotspots. This gives us control over the map. It lowers the alien presence in the simulation, I think, and by and large, let's call a spade here. This is one of those kind of busy work things that you can do that, allows people to say, hey, well, I spent 50 hours in Saints Row 4, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. So we are about to fight some enemies, and this gives me an opportunity to talk about what I feel is one of the weaknesses of Saints Row 4. And there's not that many weaknesses in Saints Row 4, so don't take this as like an overly negative thing. This is a game or a problem that a lot of open world games have. The combat and the gunplay in particular is just not that strong. It's not the strength of the game. It doesn't feel that tactile. Enemies feel like they go down really easily, and you can kind of just like strafe your way into headshots. The enemies are just cannon fodder. It kind of reminds me of playing the new Rise of the Triad. The AI is not horrible, but it's also nothing to write home about. The enemies will just kind of filter in after you. Hold Y to disable the generator. Okay. Yeah, they'll just kind of like funnel in towards you, and you can pick them off one by one. I haven't really had that much trouble so far. That being said, there are some kind of mini boss fights that I've had so far that have been a lot of fun. I haven't encountered anything quite as hilarious as the luchador fights in terms of like boss fights from Saints Row the 3rd. But again, I'm still very, very early in the game. We're still very much in the first act here. But yeah, in terms of the gunplay, this is not a game where you're going to play it and be like, oh yeah, the combat is like so engaging. It's a game where you're going to, almost to a certain extent, the combat is like my least favorite part, which is unfortunate because there's kind of a lot of it. But, I find myself being like, no, show me more cutscenes. Like, actually, for once, give me more QuickTime events because, the game is really good at building those silly QuickTime event moments. For example, like very early on in the game, jump on a nuclear missile as the President of the United States and, rip the electronics out of it. Well, Aerosmith's Don't Want to Miss a Thing plays unironically in the background. Game's really, really funny in that way. Also, this game does solve a serious problem with a lot of open world games. Water movement. Being able to run on water, I will definitely buy that eventually. But for now, you can just jump your way out of it, which is totally fine. So we're just disabling what is the enemy hotspot here. And once we kill all of these enemies, we should be basically done with it. These shield dudes are kind of annoying. You know, it's not Halo, but they're Halo-esque enemies, I guess. I'm actually going to take out my shotgun. This seems to erode their shield a little bit faster, as you can see. And there we go. Oh, they were way more annoying the first time I tried to fight them. So this is the most basic mission that I could, you know, possibly put up here. I do love our President of the United States' audacity in just punching the bejesus out of the hotspot here. Like I said, if you like the absurdity of Saints Row the Third, you are going to love Saints Row 4. It's basically like they were like, let's just make it even crazier. And I think that's very positive. The game definitely embraces its absurd elements. You know, I know there's people that are like, by the way, this is like a mini-boss fight here, so I should probably shut up and let it work. But there's a certain contingent of people who think that, you know, Grand Theft Auto has kind of gone off the rails. It's taken itself too seriously, and Saints Row the Third was a great antidote to that. For those people, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily one of them. But Saints Row 4, if you like the kind of comic angle of Saints Row the Third, you will definitely be into Saints Row 4. Probably in a much bigger way even than you were in the Saints Row the Third. That was a confusing sentence to say. So this is one of our mini-boss fights. Essentially, these are called Wardens. They've been... they're galactic prisoners, kind of like, you know, bounty hunters from Star Wars or something like that have been tasked with basically making my life a living hell in the simulation. So I think every time we destroy a hotspot, and occasionally on some missions as well, we have to kill a warden. And they get tougher and tougher as time goes on. You know, this is not necessarily the greatest showpiece for the game, I would say. I've had warden fights later that are much more interesting. This is very much like an early tutorialized... Oh, should jump there. An early and very tutorialized fight where this guy doesn't have a shield. His patterns are pretty simplistic. Now, watch me die against him. I'm playing pretty badly. Again, it's not like the gunplay is particularly staggering in its, you know, nuance or anything like that. Is that a vehicle up here? No, it's a generator. Okay, now seriously, don't die. Let's take out our burst rifle, which seems to be a little bit more effective in dealing with these guys. Where is this guy? Oh, he's right there. Okay. Once we get our superpowers, combat becomes a lot more fun. So we'll definitely do at least one more mission here in the early game where we have our superpowers, because it's really, really satisfying to, like, freeze an enemy and then shatter them into a million pieces. Or, you know, freeze a car and then shoot the inhabitants of the car and shatter them. There's a common element here that you're going to see, and that is I love shattering fools in this game. Okay, so the other thing with the wardens is that every time we kill a warden, we get a new power. Or at least every time I've killed a warden so far, I've gotten a new power. So this is the one, and we got to get a little quick time event here, which is fine in my opinion. I know some people consider these to be what's killing gaming, if you believe gaming is actually dying. But this game's not too heavy on quick time events in one way, whether that's positive or negative for you.
Perhaps my wardens underestimated you. I won't let them make the same mistake twice.
That can't be good.
Alright, so that's on. That was just a representative early game mission to kind of explain how things are going. The main point I want to make with that is that, you know, the open worldness of the game, it brings back genre tropes that everyone's going to be familiar with. Go here, destroy this thing. Go here, protect this dude, and, you know, for 3 minutes they're just going to throw waves of enemies at you and shoot them. Escort this vulnerable target to this area. Like, it doesn't break the mold most of the time, but there are occasionally missions where greater moments are built, and those make the whole experience worthwhile. So we're gonna load into a slightly later mission here. We just did Leave It to the Saints. Why don't we do Breaking the Law here, and we'll take this one. And this should be a mission where we actually have some power built up. And again, I apologize because I'm not gonna show off some of those like sticky open world trappings. This door, by the way, allows us to go from the simulation into our actual spaceship. So, you know, we do, to spoil things just ever so slightly, at a certain point into the game, we kind of get the Matrix ability to leave and enter the simulation at will. And the impetus for that is something that I don't necessarily want to touch on if it's avoidable at least. So, you know, again, to get back to my earlier point, I apologize for not, you know, checking out stores and like using my money to buy new vehicles and items and stuff like that. But I don't really care about that stuff, and if you do, I apologize. You can, you know, check out other reviews and videos. But to me, that's kind of like, I don't know, old world journalism that's like, hey, check out all the stuff that you can do in the city. Like, gee whiz, you can spend a lot of time in here. To me, it's more all about, like, is the gameplay at its core satisfying? And the answer to that is yes. And, you know, I can forgive the game for not having a pay and spray if the gameplay itself is good. Anyway, another thing I want to point out here. Totally cool that Nolan North is one of the available voices. He's obviously one of the most prolific voice actors in the video game industry. But additionally, Keith David, who you may know from his work in John Carpenter's The Thing, or, John Carpenter's They Live, or as the dad of Cameron Diaz in There's Something About Mary. He's also, I think he was on Seinfeld as a bit character. He's in the game. He's a kind of a cult acting hero and, a cult acting badass as well. A very good pickup. And he just plays your vice president, It's not like, it's like Keith David is blah, 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 like Jack Hardsmith. It's just like your vice president is Keith David, actor Keith David in canon. Which is totally cool. I think that's hilarious. And again, this game, it definitely knows what it wants to be. It's incredibly self-aware, and it serves the game better as a result of that. I mean, obviously, it's self-aware. Anyway, let's check out what our mission is here. Ghost in the Machine, help the AI enter the simulation. Okay, so this is going to be another kind of defense mission.
Break into other simulations unless it gets a body. So how do we get him one, Kinsey?
The Zin have almost everything in the simulation locked tight, but there is something you can use. A control and interface device.
Okay, great. Where do I find it?
You're in luck. The Zin have a bunch in transit right now.
The problem is, this mission is actually pretty long. I did this one earlier this morning. And this is not one of those missions, again, that kind of has a great moment in it. But maybe it's better that I'm not spoiling those. You kind of have to take me at face value when I say, like, there's really, really great moments in this game, and they come fast and furious. Like, within the first 45 minutes of the game, there had been at least, 3 or 4 different, varied scenes where I was laughing my ass off. And, I'm not the kind of person who's necessarily just like, like boobs, right? Although sometimes, admittedly, I am. I'm not saying I have the most refined sense of humor or anything like that, but it's well done. Let's just put it that way.
The Zin are using CIDs to bring a downed hotspot online. Once you have a CID from them, get it to a safe spot and wipe its old programming, so the AI can upload its personality into the new shell.
So essentially, on this mission, we are going to get one of those Wheatlead-looking things, or 343 Guilty Spark-looking things, and we're going to upload an AI's personality into it. We met an AI earlier who is kind of a compatriot of ours, a co-conspirator, shall we say. He's on our side, basically. And he will eventually become one of our homies, as the game calls them. But it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable to say. So, I am just going to continue making my way over here. Again, I can't stress enough that this might not be the most representative gameplay, although it's not the most favorable gameplay that you're seeing right now. There's better, more showier moments if you want those. Watch the trailer, watch part 1 of someone's Let's Play. What this is, though, it is pretty representative of my time with Saints Row the Forest, which is to say, it's a lot of mission types that you've seen before, but the just general gaminess of it is so satisfying that I don't think it necessarily matters. I think I've come across more negative than I meant to, or more negatively than I meant to. This is definitely something that I would consider to be one of the best games of the year so far. And the fact that I've enjoyed it so much, despite the fact that I'm really, really tired of open world games, and despite the fact that I feel like the gunplay, which makes up a lot of the game, is not that satisfying, is a real testament to, weirdly enough, the writing in the game and the way that the game, builds those kind of hilarious moments, and also the fact that just adding superpowers into the game is something that adds a whole new level of freshness that you don't often see in games like this. The same way that Sleeping Dogs felt fresh because of its kind of unique hand-to-hand combat style, Saints Row 4 feels fresh, not just because of its tone, like Saints Row the 3rd did. Let's just shoot a freezing blast down here. And it's unfortunate because I can't actually shoot in midair, but there you go. You can see you can shatter enemies. And I will be shattering enemies on the regular. That's basically my go-to move. Although you got to get those upgrades for your recharge rate, otherwise you won't be able to... one sec. I'm trying to talk here, Kinsey. Otherwise you won't be able to do it as often as you'd like. So we picked up the bounce gun here. I kind of don't like the bounce gun. But we're going to pick up the CIDs here. Last time, this one was the right one, but we failed a couple of times before, so we'll see if something goes wrong here. Building a moment. Okay, yes. So another one is going to break as well, but the third one will actually work for us. And this might actually end up being like a 25-minute to half-hour long mission. But it's a cool mission because we're going to see some kind of aerial combat. We're actually going to get in a vehicle for once. And we're gonna see some of the game's trademark sense of humor, so maybe it's a good thing. Alright, so this time I believe this CID will indeed work for us. Fantastic. Kind of cute for a robot that used to be a villain, and then it'll follow us basically wherever we want to go. So we're gonna go up here to this rooftop. Again, I can't stress enough how this, like, jumping superpower is fucking fantastic. And the running superpower as well. And the game doesn't hide these behind, like, substantial walls of progress. You get the superpowers literally 45 minutes into the game, tops.
I guarantee the Zin have a way of finding these devices remotely.
Alright, so this is one of those missions where we're just going to have to defend this thing. And I'm going to show you some cool stuff here, because occasionally, you know, you'll encounter vehicles, and it's going to seem like it's kind of insurmountable odds for you to succeed. There's going to be huge, like, battleships coming at you, but this is where your superpowers kind of allow you to even the score. You can also, you know, just headshot these guys, and if you do that, the vehicles will fall, and we'll pilot one of those out of here. But for now, you know, sometimes you're actually better off just using your handgun and, like, aiming for headshots. This has been my experience, at least. So let's try that again. Maybe sometimes it's better to do that, and he'll probably shatter when he hits the ground. But I don't want to use too many of my superpowers. Man, I'm actually taking a decent amount of damage. There are health pickups. Additionally, you do have regenerating health, I think, when there's no enemies around or when you haven't been shot for a while. So kind of, you know, the Call of Duty, I guess, style regenerating health, which is fine. It works. You know, this is not a game necessarily about trial and error. It's a game about kind of progressing, in my opinion at least, progressing quickly to get to this awesome story stuff. But there is a lot of sticky stuff in the world as well that you can use to, I don't know, lengthen your overall experience. So obviously, unintentionally walked into the fire there. Where is the big alien battleship that always comes in? Hopefully my vision fixes itself at some point soon. Okay, there's a big alien battleship. And if we can get that... Oh, Jesus. If we can see that, there we go. If we fire our ice at it, this will actually just cause it to crash and explode. That is fucking awesome. There's not much more satisfying out of games this year than, you know, throwing a big ball of freezing ice at an alien spaceship and having it crash to the ground as a result of your omnipotence. I like that a lot. And, you know, you get powers like fire and telekinesis as well. Telekinesis is kind of cool so far, but fire, I'm like, why would I ever use fire? I can freeze enemies. Okay, so... we have to protect this guy for 55 minutes, and then basically I'm going to ruin the moment here, but your President of the United States character's like, 55 minutes? Like, have you never played a video game before? It's always 3 to 5 minutes.
Because a major connection point for the simulation is going to be heavily guarded.
Sit down no faster.
Well, probably, but...
We're taking this thing there.
Alright, so now we're going to get in this vehicle. This is kind of like the hover bike, I guess, from Saints Row the Third, and we're just going to... I find this thing really hard to drive, but that might be my own fault, in all honesty. And we're just going to fly over here, which is probably one of the few times that I will actually use a vehicle in this game versus using my... just superpowers. I apologize for talking over the dialogue, by the way, but the dialogue is one of the strongest parts of the game, but I've got a lot to say about this, I think.
He helped with Cyrus Temple. You know, he's useful.
Useful?
You have a lot on your plate, Kinsey. I figure with all this cyber hoozy-hoozy, you could use the help.
I'm doing just fine without Matt Miller. Thank you.
Two heads are better than one, Kinsey. Set it up.
I really love the fact that this guy's voice is completely unintelligible. By the way, this is not like me cranking the slider all the way. That's like 40% voice pitch down from Nolan North. You can take it even lower. I think it'll just be a tone that only like the old gods beneath us can hear. So I'm just using my vehicle to kind of clear out some riffraff down here. My vehicle's about to explode. I'm not sure if I would die if the vehicle kind of broke at this point. Let's just fall down instead. Again, it's kind of easier, at least in my experience, to just take enemies out on the ground versus messing around with vehicular stuff. Because, you know, just getting a headshot on an enemy is actually, like, pretty darn easy. Maybe this mission's a little bit shorter than I remember. So this is going to be like a 3-part mission here. We've already completed part 1. This will be part 2, and then part 3 is coming up in just a second.
Kinsey?
That's just part of the process.
Apparently the sweary part of the process.
It's like Sylvester Stallone pitch shifted downwards, slowed down like that Justin Bieber video that makes it sound like Sigur Rós or something. Alright, so now, you know, again, fairly standard open world style game, or open world style mission here. We are going to have to deal with waves of enemies that are going to pour in here. And, you know, they don't actually, at least with the first time I played the mission, even though I thought I did really badly, they don't actually try to, like, damage or disrupt your objective. they just kind of, you know, shoot at you. So this is more of, it kind of feels a little bit like a, you know, a time-spending mission. But it also has some payoff, because you do get a new companion at the end of it. Now, I'm just going to continue basically using my freezing power. You might think that this gets old at some point, but, you know, I guess I'm still fairly early on in the game. But it hasn't lost any of its luster at all so far. I think that it's fair to say I will probably never get tired of, you know, freezing a substantial group of enemies and then blowing them apart. This one actually didn't work. You have to do a certain amount of damage to blow them apart, I think. So it's probably actually better for me to use like an SMG or something here. We'll see. Pistol works, but it's too slow. All right, so there we go. Actually, you know, the pistol seems to be the one that has the best option. I don't know why it says it freeze shatters 20 out of 100. Have I really only shattered 100 people? I guess this is a little bit earlier in the game than I actually am right now. So there will be vehicles coming at me again. We will actually get introduced to a new enemy as well. Let's see if I can get the greatest skill shot of all time here. All right, that'll do. Hopefully that kills some of the enemies on the ground as well. Maybe not. So again, it looks like we still have 15 minutes on this mission. We don't. To spoil things, we will have the opportunity to speed it up by going to some nodes. So I'm just going to freeze those guys here. Oh, whoa, where did you come from? Again, you know, this is a pretty good example of the AI not being super intelligent. But it's also a pretty good example of the game being fairly lenient and not, like, making you die just because you weren't paying attention and enemies spawned in behind you. I shouldn't be using an SMG here, actually. I should be using my pistol. That's, you know, generally my style in these games. Hey, is to just go for the skill shot, which is actually pretty easy. It feels like there's some auto-aim, but keep in mind I am using my controller to play this on the PC, because I typically do use my controller to play third-person games, especially shooters. I even like Max Payne 3 and Spec Ops: The Line I played with my controller, because I'm casual scum. What can I say? All right, okay, skill shot of the century here. I'm going to jump up in the air and then throw my ball of ice at it and completely miss. Okay, but luckily we can kind of ignore that for now. And we'll take care of that thing in the future. By the way, really well-designed environments. There are very few buildings that are designed in such a way that you can't jump up them, and I think that's a pretty smart decision. I want to increase the area of effect on my freeze, actually, as well. Hey, I'm actually getting pretty hurt here, but there's some health pickups that we can get there. Yeah, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Like, there's very few buildings designed with, like, a lip on the edge of them that makes it impossible to get up to the top just by jumping, which I think is a very smart decision. It feels like everything is totally open. Let's shoot this dude in the head. I love the kind of, like, completely needless rolls and stuff and jukes that these guys do that end up not helping them out at all. I guess it gives them some dynamism. We're going to speed up our download here. And this should speed it up so we only have like 3 minutes or something. Oh, I can actually destroy that with telekinesis, but I don't have it yet.
Too fast. Sid is overloading. Overheating. Get to him and cool him down.
Alright, so I gotta get back to Sid in 30 seconds. And luckily, you know, this might be a problem if we had to walk, but because I got superpowers... Oh god, there's one of these buildings with a lip on it. I know he's gonna blow, but I accidentally found myself at the Royal Observatory. Oh my god, we might actually fail this mission.
Sid is melting down. Do something to cool
We have to freeze him. Run, run, run. Okay, I think we're actually gonna be fine. Now just take your time. Oh, relax. I made it with bells on here. Okay, so he's cooled down, and now we have like 3 minutes, I think. And then we'll have to fight a boss, and then we'll call it quits, I guess.
3 minutes.
Alright, now we got a more realistic video gamey style time limit here. So we got 3 minutes. These are obviously enemies kind of spawning in. These are actually like T-1000s.
Murder bots? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm having a bit of a stronger reaction.
These guys are really tough to kill, but by the same token, doesn't seem all that important to kill them because I can just kind of hang out up here, and when one of them dies, I can take his weapon. That's important. Oh, I should probably use like some fire or something. And you know, these guys fire explosives. So if I can actually, what the heck is this thing? If I can actually take them out, then it'll be easier to do crowd control on other enemies. Ow!
Do you really want to give some rogue
All right, is this the one that we were shooting? I think it was. Oh man, we're getting health is falling really quickly here. This is much harder than it was the first time I did it. Let's pick up the bounce rifle. Maybe this is the secret. And we'll get far away, and there's a mothership. Actually, I might die here, believe it or not. Which would be fairly disappointing. Oh, I did hit it. Excellent. Okay. So I'm just going to wait for my health to regen a little bit. Again, to a certain extent, the mission's kind of just about survival. Did those murder bots actually die down there? No, not even close. So we'll just keep freezing them. It says protect Sid, but I haven't really seen them attack him ever, so I sort of don't know if that's actually important. Or if it's just more about survival. So this is the bounce gun. This is a new gun. It's like alien technology, but I don't think it's really that strong. At least in my experience so far, it hasn't been that strong. So we're just going to continue. Oh, no, I'm not abandoning him. I just came up here for a second. And we'll get our SMG out and then just start doing some chip damage, I guess, up here. Being able to freeze the enemy is pretty important. Should probably kill the cannon fodder earlier. So it's nice that there are some varied enemies that are a little bit trickier to kill, but by the same token, it does feel like a lot of them are just bullet sinks, which is okay, you know. They're aliens. Maybe that's how they actually are. Maybe they're just really strong dudes. We fought one in hand-to-hand combat a little earlier in the game, and he appeared to be a pretty insurmountable foe, so I understand where they're coming from here. 47 seconds, then I believe we will move on to a mini-boss fight, like the one that we saw a little bit earlier, but this Warden will actually be substantially tougher to kill, and then we'll call it quits, and I'll sum up my thoughts on Saints Row 4. Largely positive, as you can probably guess here. Again, I feel like I brought up a lot of criticisms. Oh, God! Is there like a UFO up behind us? I feel like I brought up a lot of criticisms, but don't let that dissuade you. This is a very, very good open-world game, and if I'm going to play any open-world game right now, it would probably be Saints Row 4. You know, GTA 5 is not out yet. And especially, you know, this does have the same kind of online co-op as its predecessor, which I think is an asset. You know, Saints Row the 3rd co-op online was a ton of fun. So I believe that you'll get basically the same point out of it, or the same value out of it here. Alright. So I believe we will have a boss fight now. Or mini-boss fight. I should know with a little bit extra authority, considering I just did this mission a little bit earlier in the day. Okay, so now this is an example of a warden that actually has a shield. The good news is all the other enemies are dead. The bad news... Oh my god, what is he doing down here? The good news is all the other enemies have died. The bad news is, of course, that I'm going to have to fight this dude, and he has telekinesis now, so he's substantially stronger, although his AI seems to be struggling pretty mightily with the fact that I was above him there. So you gotta use... Oh, yes. Hold X to pick up laser gun arm. I like this. You have to use your freezing power to break his shield, and then I guess you just fill him full of lead with the laser gun arm. Man, this is actually working out quite dandy. So I'm just gonna chase him up here. This is way more effective than just your typical shotgun. Oh, that hurts. Recover. And you know, these mini-boss fights actually do have a certain sense of, you know, scale to them. They get... Do I not have the laser gun arm? Oh, I must have dropped it. It must be a heavy weapon. They have a certain sense of scale to them. They feel good. Sometimes it can be tricky to dodge. You don't have, like, a roll ability, as far as I know. You mostly just got to rely on your super sprint to get away. So we're just going to hang out behind this thing until we get our freeze back. And once we do, it should be any second now. Again, the recharge time is actually pretty long here. There we go. Now we'll just fill him full of some lead. Probably a good idea to pick up a... another laser cannon, which actually sped this up a whole heck of a lot, but we'll see in a second here. So far, fairly able to exploit the AI. Whether you want to do that yourself is, I guess, a matter of personal preference. Oh! Yeah, can I just become a part of him now? Wow, that was actually a really easy boss fight. So again, we'll quick time event it up here, and one more press maybe. No, not necessary. This is what gives us telekinesis, so this is how you kind of get more powers in the game. But I don't necessarily think we need to go through all of that. Telekinesis is cool enough in its own right, but that is Saints Row 4. I like it. I like it a lot. Even though I brought up a lot of complaints, they're not really complaints about Saints Row 4. They're complaints about the open world genre and as it stands right now. And, you know, as much as Saints Row 4 subverts those genre tropes by making the game as absolutely batshit crazy and hilarious as possible, it still suffers from the fact that the missions are a little bit, I don't know, tired, to a certain extent. That being said, the game is still a whole hell of a lot of fun, and even though I don't necessarily buy into all of the open world trappings that exist in this game and a lot of other open world games, the game is hilarious, well worth $50, which is $10 less than your average AAA cost, and you know, I really genuinely believe that this is one of the most fun games, most fun experiences that I've had so far with games this year. So yeah, consider this a hearty recommendation. Just, you know, buyer beware to a certain extent. If you are another person who is a little bit fed up with certain tropes in the genre, maybe this isn't going to tickle your fancy as much, but I'm fairly confident that if you're still watching this video at this point, you are going to have a very good time with Saints Row 4. At least I have. As always, thanks for watching. There will be a link to pick up Saints Row 4 on Steam in the video description below. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.